Years later, Fira escaped the trap that her teacher used years ago. Now Fira is a grown woman. Later, she learned to do graceful dance, and dance in a long dress, like flag dancing and ribbon dancing, including twirling, even gymnastics. The big shine was the geisha act and shadow play dancing. Fira danced in the royal northern water tribes to the royal earth palace, air temple, council elders, females and males, Fire Nation circus, and the main course is the Fire Nation royal palace. Their inhabitant, Fire Lord named Tayo, and his wife, the Fire Queen named Kistune. They gave birth to 2 kids, one girl, which she's the princess. Her name is Akaru. And another was a boy, of course, he's the prince. His name is Nikibasu. At the Fire Nation Theater, the audience, North, South Water Tribes, to Air Nomads, Earth Kingdom citizens, and Fire Nation, gather around, getting seated, as everyone is seated, including the royal family. The Rainmaster announcer announced the type of arts that Fira performed in each nation. After the introduction ended, the show began. As Fira dancing was magnificent, was marvelous and remarkable. One moment, she was in mid-air with dark fire vortex that caused Fira to twirl and spin to do some flips and tricks to show off to the audience. Fira's last performance was the runway fan ribbon dance and a bit of pole dancing. After the superior supreme excellent performance, as the audiences applaud, as Fira teleported from the backstage to the entrance of the Fire Nation Theater. Right before Fira about to move on, but then stopped by the princess, and then the prince joined to graduate her from the majestic performance. So, as the royal kids' conversation gave them enough time for the parents to meet up, the queen asked if Fira wanted to be a royal guest in the Fire Nation Royal Palace. Of course, Fira said yes, as she agreed in her deep thoughts. Yes, everything's going according to plan. He. As Fira went to the palace, and the servants grant Fira as a guest. A bedroom and chambers. After Fira got comfortable, she was slightly greeted by the queen. After a few days of Fira's stay, Fira was acting a bit suspicious, meaning she doesn't appear for brunch or lunch, but she show up for dinner and breakfast. Even there was one point Queen spotted Fira leaving the castle doors, but the queen tried to persuade to Fira, but it was no use. In the fact the kids are concerned. As Fira is outdoors of the royal Fire Nation Palace, Freya tried to find some servants to do her evil bidding, or her guards. So, as she searched for one, and somewhat she found the perfect servant. It was a male from the Earth Kingdom. It was so simple to fool the poor man. As the man had Freya's attention, at one single glare, the man recognized Freya by saying, "Hey, you're that amazing dancer from the theater." As the man had Freya's full-blown attention, she easily subdued him by saying, "You know, dancing is not all I can do." After the man heard this, he was heated up by being active. And Freya gave him to come here finger gesture. As he followed, Freya said to him, "Come at my place. That's where all the fun is." After Freya subdued the man enough, where she lead him to? The unknown chamber. Ever since Freya first came to the royal palace, then Freya made the Earth Kingdom man unconscious, and then she dragged him down the stairs and chained him downstairs in a cellar. After that, she later took several other men. Then her next task is to trick women. But being a lady, middle-aged lady, that's really poor. But this is further steps for her evolving her powers to shift and morph. As she took a lady to chain to her chambers, as soon as the lady realized something was really wrong, she turned around to face the lady. The last thing she could see was her face shifting more quackly skin and had 5 eyes glowing violet purple from Freya's dark energy, and caused the lady to pass out from her powerful presence. 14 minutes later, which the dark red light basement room, a water tribe lady and a man was gagged and bound. Earth Kingdom man and lady is chained, and the Fire Nation lady and man was tied up, and several more men and women from different nations within the room filling in. Right before Freya was about to commit torture and every enduring pain among these citizens for purposes, but before Freya began, she was suddenly stopped from a knock from the door. As Freya walked towards the door, she can hear muffled moans from the people struggling to break free. As Freya reached to the door, she kept the door cracked from hiding suspicions. It was the queen, as Freya frequently asked her, "What do you need, my highness?" The queen requests Freya if she could come for brunch or lunch. As the queen said this, Freya looked in anger, giving a thought. What would happen if she leaves and a maid comes in and see the horror? And pretty much Freya clearly decide to join. Sometime weeks later, as so, Freya did join the royal family, and later she was shut in and started continuing torturing the prisoner victims in her chamber and experimenting on them. As this was going on, Nikibasu, the prince, went up to see the mystery of why Freya ain't coming down for brunch or lunch in the afternoon or evening. So Nikibasu successfully made it upstairs. The first time Nikibasu heard through the door, was whispering, chanting an uncomfortable language he had never heard before in his life. So the prince peeked through the keyhole by cupping his hands and put his eye in through his hands to peek clearly. As he see, through the hole, he sees Flare's room was red and purple. She sits in a meditation position. As she sit there, appeared to be shadowy ghost figures with 5 up to 9 spider eyes glowing red. Some seems to be a water tribe chief and chiefess, an earth king, earth queen, and last a fire lord. It appears to be a chiefess is Yuri, and the earth queen is Chojo. But the chief and earth king is unknown, possibly a shadow entity that shifts to look like the king and chief. After the prince couldn't believe what he was seeing, after seeing Flea enchant on, the prince sworn he saw one of the shadowy beast entity looked at him before he retreat to breathe heavily from experiencing horror. So the prince ran to the throne room. As he ran within the chamber, within the chamber, one of the shadows alerted Flare that she has been compromised. Flare was angered when she heard this, and one of the shadows thought she said she was completely alone to complete the grand ritual. But the Fire Lord leader resumed his comrades. They had to finish the ritual since they don't have enough time. One of the shadow comrades said it was risky, but the leader said, "What else time we have left? What else time do we have left?" So at the same time this was going on, the prince warned his family there's a demon in their home. The first reaction came from the prince's father, laughed and confused, and correcting him by saying, "Nikabasu, there's no such thing. That's just Flea up there. That's just Flea." As Nikabasu heard his father, Nikabasu started to stammer his words in a nervous state, trying to find proof. Then his sister, Princess Akaru, joined in the fun, even discouraging him by saying, "It's in your imagination. It's just in your head. You're hallucinating and seeing things that's not there." And Nikabasu sit there and stutter on and on, while his sister and father discriminate and discouraging him. The only person to see to believe is his mother, Kensu. Then finally pass on to his mother and she stand straight believed her son. The husband and daughter looked in shock. The husband stuttered on saying "Nani?" and his daughter looked startled. The queen was up to something, like investigating some points and clues. First clue, Flea going out in a suspicion matter. And second clue, she stays in her chamber too long. Final clue, she doesn't come down for lunch or brunch in the evening or afternoon. Nikabasu added to this. He once heard muffled screams and shouts. This proved it all. Meanwhile, in the chamber, as the ritual was shifting forward, as the pentagram witchcraft with Japanese symbols and Chinese symbols. And chanting the witchcraft demonic pentagram, dark star started to glow purple. Emerged a dark vortex beam that shoot up as the beam bright the entire room. As Freya laughed eerily, then a crack sound from her body, and it aches. Basically, she's shifting and transforming. Her arms shift and stretch and bend joints, and her joints began to bend, even her legs. Her nails grew sharp, and the color was dried to a violet dark color. Her teeth sharpened ever before, and her skin was the same color when she was a little girl, corrupted. It turned more powdery particles. After this, the room became more powdery as particles fell. It turned more powdery with veins that's dark purple. The veins were somewhat large on her legs and arms and even her neck. Her eyes turned into 5. Her brown, jet black hair turned bloody red, and her Fire Nation Komodo clothing turned to purple and dark pink to a dark blue. As the transformation was going on, the Shadow Lord, Fire Lord, warned Freya to remember these words. When all become lost, when you have the upper hand, to all they will send help. A portal will be open from a rift. A guardian will strike. Remember, remember, remember. Then the shadow fizzed away. Freya let out a scream and screech. She also let out wheeze and whispering and moans and groan. Then she laughed insanely. Part of her front teeth and bottom teeth became sharpened fangs. Thus, her transformation was complete. Later, the king told his wife, "This is all loony." Right before the husband continued, a thud came from the chamber that Freya been hiding. The first thud caused the royal family became nervous. After the second thud, the family was spooked. After this, the queen demanded for guards to guard the door. And so the queen left to get a medium, and the children and the father stood and watched in horror. of the door trying to bust open, with lavender purple mist seeping under the door. As the door banged louder and louder, the queen still was on the search without a second thought. The door exploded with a loud demonic screeching sound following out of the open hole. The guard flinched and quivered in fear. From this most powerful entity they stood up against. As this was going on, the husband pleaded for his wife to return. As his wife made it to the best mediums she could find. Meanwhile, at the palace, Fire used her upgrade dark elements, black water, then purple black dark ice, then dark earth, next black air, next black lightning, black fire, then dark energy, her powers were super horrendous. From a snap of a finger, she summoned poison, toxic, and sleeping mist. She walked casually to the throne while the men guards was dying beside her. She was humming an eerie tune. As she reached closer to the king, she gave him an evil grin. As the kids hugged their father in fear for comfort and hope for hope. As the king stuttered in fear and let out, "Why are you doing this?" Fire cocked her head to the side, following with a loud pop sound that caused the husband and kids to feel more uncomfortable. Fire let out a slight eerie whisper. Pass, Raph. Then her head spazzed rapidly, violently, and her mouth opened and split, gaping to in a way with like a smile and twitching. Right before she continued, the queen finally returned with a lady from the Northern Water Tribe and a male Northern Air Norm. The lady named Koetsuya Masumi, as she's a relative of Korgi, the Flare teacher. Koetsuya's husband named Seiji Bofu, as Flare since pick up that the maiden couples are Kori relatives. Flare screamed out as the royal father kids covered their ears from her ear-piercing scream. Flare let out, "I'll kill you all. This world is doomed, and there's nothing you can do about it." As rage engulfed her, as she charged at the couple, as Flare was on target. Croatia used waterbending moves, splash a water spirit to put a burn on her, and the husband, Seiji, used his airbending technique to keep her down, just like Corgi did with her iceberg spikes to pin her down to the wall. As Kaseiji's husband distracting Flea, Koseiji turned around and needed the royal family kids to assist the medium. At first, the father was going to deny, but his wife said yes, they should. They're fast enough that Flea can't catch up with them. So the maiden continued telling them to go to the Jaku forest. As so, Seiji heard his wife plan. He stopped his airbending attack. As the kids had spirit wind in a chemical potion bottle, the spirit water, spirit fire, spirit earth. As Flea seen these bottles, Flea was furious, and her legs shifted into spider-like legs, and ran off to chasing the kids. The chase of the banishment began as the kids ran, and Flea was behind them. Chasing them, Flea ferociously burst through the giant palace doors and running through the Fire Nation to the western air temple, air nomads. When the kids ran through the temple, Flea breathed dark fire to burn the kids, but it was no use because the air nuns, the female air nomads, used air spears to protect them. As Flea let out a giant plum purple and dark blood red dragon with bat wings to try to fly over the shield. The girls caught up with the kids. As this was going on, Seiji just felt an essence of the air nuns shield their homes a moment ago. He knew the kids was getting closer to the Jaku forest. So Kokoji and Seigi went on a sky bison named Kofu. As the maiden flew to follow the kids, as this became the decision, the queen demanded for the war guards. And also send out the Yu-yin archers. And let the other know the northern chief Tundra, who came back to the chiefdom, and he's elder though, but still a good fighter. He called his army the Northern Water Tribe. Then later, the Earth King and the Earth Kingdom, the king was Jitsu, and he was in his old age. He sent out an army and the Kyoshi warriors, as each nation army chased to follow the medium. The Fire Nation queen rode on her female phoenix dragon Her name was Elikantona, and the queen took off following her army, who was riding on the Komodo rhinos. And some was riding on their mongoose lizards. And alongside South and North Water Tribe Army coming, riding on their snow leopard caribou. And others rode on an Arctic camel. The Kingdom army comes riding on badger moles. Others rode on shishas. Others rode on oxysis horses. And each nation had different type of weapons, like bow, crossbow, surface air rocks, butterfly sword. As the kids still running for their lives from the monster flare. But they finally made it to the forest. The kids load a big wooden with a wooden latch to secure the forest. As the kids ran and they finally found the block off. The kids were startled from the thud, and not as long as the medium and queen found the kids hiding behind one of the dying willow trees. As the kids heard their mother call them above, they felt relieved When the wooden door burst open, the happiness soon died away as the tired, aggressive Freya sang it in the distorted voice, "Playtime is over." While Freya, dragging her sharp nails to the ground and grinding them right before she slashed at the kids, one of the Water Tribe warriors sling at Freya, and them Freya see in her own eyes the kids wasn't a distraction. So the queen can gather the nation military to put an end to her terror. As Freya thought of this idea, she maniacally laughs, and then her back formed a porcupine, bony-like spines protruding from her back, like a hyena hair on its neck. She immediately enchants, as she was enchanting. Keiji told Nikabasu to use the water spirit on her. This is his chance. Without a second thought, Nikabasu tossed the spirit water at Freya's leg and caused them to freeze instantly. And the mist was liquid nitrogen, cool as northern Antarctica temperature. Then it was the Water Tribe to strike, as they had good hit on Freya, but it appears that the water spirit is breaking. So, Akuru tossed the wind spirit to keep her still. Then it was the Earth Kingdom to get rounds on her. The spirit wind was fading away. Then Nikabasu tossed the spirit light. As he tossed this one, everything worn. As he tossed this one, everyone wore eclipse glasses. The spirit light blind flare long enough so the Fire Nation to charge at Flare, but then the light didn't last very long, so Nikabasu tossed Spirit Thunder at Flare. As the glass broke and let out thunder and electrocuted Flare long enough so the water and earth took